In the heart of the Imperial University's Magic Tower, Chairwoman Adeline, a mage renowned for her immense magical prowess and a top candidate for Archmage. But despite that, she surprisingly has an easygoing personality. Despite her formidable power, her love for gossip and worldly affairs stemmed from a hidden truth. She was a half-fairy, a trait that fueled both her extraordinary magic and her playful personality. Though she often grumbled, she secretly relished days filled with intrigue. From a corner, Adeline had previously observed Deculin and Knight Julie embroiled in a heated argument, and she'd heard that Professor Relin had once again failed his diet. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity as she exclaimed over the drama, delighting in the tower's latest scandals. Now, addressing the gathered professors during their monthly meeting, Adeline noted that Professor Deculin had been acting strangely, even defending the red box at Berkt. She remarked that such behavior was unexpected for him. The Magic Tower's professors gather before the chairwoman to make an appearance once a month, and that day is today. And Deculin often found himself in awkward situations, typically proclaiming his superiority as a Yukline, and denying any intent to impress others. This time, however, Professor Retland cautiously spoke, only while in Deculin's absence, informing the chairwoman that Lady Luina had made an appearance at the Sorcerer Council meeting. Adeline's thoughts turned to Luina, who had once competed with Deculin for the chief professor position but resigned due to an unexpected incident and was believed to be in the kingdom. Adeline, smiling brightly, questioned what had prompted Luina's sudden return to the Empire. Retlan, laughing, suggested that a guaranteed position would naturally draw her back, adding that her accomplishments in the kingdom would greatly benefit the Magic Tower. Retlan subtly implying that Deculin's recent alignment with heretics cast doubt on his leadership, though he quickly clarified he wasn't criticizing the current chief professor. Adeline, catching Retlan's intent, smiled and waved off the discussion, promising to consider Luina's return. She abruptly ended the meeting, urging professors who hadn't submitted their exam questions to hurry, as she had other matters to attend to. The professors, dismissed with her positive demeanor, left the office with bright expressions. Alone, Adeline sat deep in thought, her tea or coffee resting on the table. She pulled out documents, musing that Deculin had been off lately. She examined the test he'd submitted, noting its questions were so well crafted they could be used for the prestigious Solda promotion test. Skeptical, she doubted Deculin could have created them alone. With a mischievous glint, she thought about teasing him and gleefully anticipated the excitement if Luina, his arch-rival, returned to stir things up. A few days later, on the day of the midterm exam for understanding pure elemental magic, the classroom buzzed with student chatter. They expressed disbelief, questioning if this was truly a test, marveling at its bizarre nature. Some confirmed rumors of Deculin's strange exams, while ha 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 ha, others laughed, admitting they were ready to give up. Alan, standing at the podium, called for calm. He acknowledged the students' confusion, explaining that this was no ordinary exam, but precisely as described. He announced that the midterm would span 10 days, concluding at midnight on the academic schedule's final Sunday. Each student would take the test individually in an assigned room, permitted to leave for other exams, meals, or sleep, but forbidden from removing their test papers. He emphasized that it was an open-book exam. Julia, seated beside Ephereine, remarked in shock that a 10-day open-book exam suggested an extraordinary level of difficulty. Ephereine, clutching her head, groaned that surviving Deculin's last exam was torturous enough, complaining that he never created anything normal and always delegated the odd announcements to his assistant professor. Alan added that Professor Deculin had promised a letter of recommendation under his title as chief professor for anyone who achieved a perfect score. The students' eyes widened at this revelation, recognizing the immense value of such a letter. The Archmage ranks, spanning from rank 1, Eternal Archmage, to rank 11, Debutante, were notoriously hard to climb. Advancement required passing grueling promotion exams, not merely completing courses or waiting. A rank 4, Archmage, a monarch holding Deculin's recommendation, would wield a virtual guarantee of promotion, akin to a wildcard. Ephereine, however, bristled at the idea, thinking that a recommendation from Deculin, her sworn enemy, drained her motivation to excel. She wanted no association with him. But then, her perspective shifted. She imagined that if she did earn a perfect score and secured his recommendation, she could one day stand over him triumphantly. In her mind's eye, she pictured herself stepping on Deculin's head, bah ha ha, laughing and taunting that his recommendation had led to his own downfall, while he pleaded for mercy from the great Ephereine. Snapping back to reality, Ephereine, head bowed, chuckled deviously, thinking how satisfying it would be to outshine Deculin. She vowed to achieve a perfect score. Kuhu, kuhu-hoo, kuku-kuku. Her odd laughter drew a curious stare from Julia. On the fourth day of the Understanding Pure Elemental Magic midterm exam, Ephereine sat in her assigned room, clutching her head in frustration. She thought grimly that the test was brutally difficult, with each new question escalating in complexity after hours of effort. 1 hour, 4 hours, 10 hours. Despite the agony, she marveled at the brilliance of the questions, noting that solving them brought a profound sense of realization she'd never experienced before. She questioned whether Deculin could have crafted such a test, admitting that while it was torturous, the joy of enlightenment kept her hooked. Determined, she vowed to earn his recommendation letter. Initially, Ephereine had tackled the test confidently. The first question, which asked her to calculate the circuit of a given technique, was theoretical and manageable. Using her intuition, she released mana through her fingers, recreating the circuit as she computed. After an hour, she sighed in relief, infused the correct amount of mana into the answer column, and moved on. The second question, requiring her to infer the mana flow from a key circuit, was slightly harder but still theoretical. It took her 3 to 4 hours to solve. However, the third question posed a real challenge. Deduce a specific magic formula from a given circuit under certain conditions, express the magic, and implant it into the test paper. Now, on the fourth day, frustrated, she stared at the paper and muttered that she couldn't crack the question. Deciding her brain ached from sitting too long, she chose to step outside for fresh air. At Academy Guardant, Sylvia sat exhausted on a bench, exhaling heavily. She remarked that she'd finally solved a question after 30 grueling hours and needed a brief break. Reflecting on Deculin's promise of a recommendation letter, she scoffed, thinking it was a meaningless gesture. Anyone capable of a perfect score wouldn't need it to pass a promotion exam. Yet, she admitted to herself that she craved a perfect score, not for grades or the letter, but for personal growth. She found each question beautifully crafted, each a key to unique enlightenment that would elevate her as a mage if she could solve them all. Spotting Sylvia, Ephereine called out in surprise. Sylvia, recognizing her, wondered how far Ephereine had progressed. Their voices overlapped as they awkwardly asked each other how many questions they'd solved. Sylvia, shrugging, revealed she was working on question 8. Ephereine, envious, exclaimed that reaching question 8 was impressive, admitting she was stuck on question 7. Sylvia, surprised by Epherine's pace, thought it was fast, wondering if Ephereine was lying, but dismissing the concern to focus on her own test. Ephereine, noticing Sylvia rise, asked if it was because of her. Sylvia clarified she was merely taking a break. The question confounding Ephereine was question number 7. When magic with a given core circuit satisfies 4 specific conditions, infer the complete formula and implement the magic. As the students of the Magic Tower grappled with their midterm exams, Deculin sensed a monumental shift looming on the horizon. Seated in his office, he scanned a newspaper, murmuring to himself that the true events were now beginning to unfold. The headline in bold print declared, "Emperor Krabaim, currently in critical condition."